My boyfriend and I have been together for about 2 years. In the beginning, things were great. But as time progressed, our relationship took a different turn. He started being verbally abusive and saying hurtful things that I would later apologize because I provoked him to say that. We would have good spells, and I thought things would be good again, and then another episode would happen that would start this vicious cycle of verbally abusing me. Somehow, someway, it was always my fault, and to this day, it's still my fault for his actions. Last night, I was trying to have a conversation about something he did that hurt me, and he turned his back on me mid-conversation, and I said, "This is why I believe you don't care." He, then, jumped up out of his chair, punched the wall, and ran full speed towards me. He has never laid hands on me, so I wasn't expecting him to do what he did. After he ran full speed towards me, he shoved me up against the wall and put his hands around my neck. While he didn't choke me hard, he started screaming in my face, and I could feel the sting of his hands around my neck after he let me go. I walked into our bedroom and grabbed clothes to leave. He tried to stop me before walking out the door, saying that I provoked him to put his hands on me, and that he has had enough of my bitching. I left and went to a friend's house. He started blowing my phone up, calling me a liar. I told him I was going to get food because I knew if I said I was going to my friend's house he wouldn't let me leave, and that he doesn't remember what happened because he was so mad. I came back home this morning, after he'd left from work, and I'm so confused whether to pack my things up or just stay. What is weird about all this is the fact that earlier that day, I was at therapy and my therapist said, "It's only a matter of time before he put his hands on you." And that night he put his hands on me. Yes, I started going to therapy because I thought I was the issue in our relationship. I, 29F, moved to the US 7 years ago as a grad school student from Indonesia. I met my boyfriend, 30M, a few months after I moved, and we've been together ever since. My boyfriend is a US citizen. After I graduated, we had a serious discussion about where our relationship was headed. I made it very clear that I wanted to eventually get married and have children. My boyfriend echoed the sentiments. We'd occasionally talked about marriage, but we were both busy with our respective careers, so the timing didn't seem quite right. However, recently my company announced that there's a chance that my department's work will be outsourced. I'm on a temporary worker visa, so this means that I need to start looking for a job ASAP if I want to continue staying in the US. Last week, during our anniversary, I brought this up. I asked him if he thought it was the right time to think about getting married, as that will also help with sorting out my visa issues. He looked like he was about to vomit. After much prodding, he confessed that he wasn't planning on us getting married before I was able to get a green card, permanent resident, in the US. I was incredibly confused because he'd never mentioned this before. His reason was that he didn't want to be used as a visa mule, his words, not mine, by me, and that he wanted to make sure that I married him because I loved him and not because it was a ticket to getting to stay in the US, which can only happen when I get a GC. It took me a while to process what he said, and I asked him if he'd be okay to move to Indonesia with me, which he wasn't. I did not react well and ended up leaving because I couldn't deal with what just happened. I am still in disbelief. While the visa issues are certainly a problem, I did not date him with the intention of making him my safety net. I cannot believe that even after nearly a decade together, he doesn't know what kind of person I am. I feel like this relationship is possibly over and it hurts. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend he isn't welcome to live with me? For context, we have been together for almost 4 years but have always lived separately. I, 25F, live in my home with my daughter, and he, 30 male, lives with his parents. He stays with me the majority of the time and has done so for years with no financial contribution. Around 18 months ago I bought a new larger property solo, which was very much a fixer-upper and I have invested a lot of time and money in. It is now around 75% complete with progression weekly. In the time, my boyfriend has constantly made negative comments regarding my home, and in a previous argument he had told me he didn't know why I was proud of the work I have done to my home because it isn't finished and you wouldn't celebrate before you won the race, also, that it is the worst looking property in the street and that I should be embarrassed at it and at the pace I'm completing the work. He also often makes comments about how he doesn't like certain things in my home and that if he had his own home he would have different. Yesterday he brought up the idea of him moving in together full-time in conversation. I mentioned the mean things he had previously said around my home and he thought I was over those comments. Personally, I think it is best he gets his own home. Maybe when he pays for everything single-handed alongside working full-time, he may have more appreciation and respect for my home and the fact I have to save for works as they are expensive. So, am I the a-hole for not wanting him to move in? I genuinely don't know who else to tell. We've been together for about 4 months, and I thought things were going well between us, until I saw him thrusting into my gray Stanley cup on the bed, literally pinning it underneath him and thrusting the way he does to me. It's been a while since we did anything intimate because I got a new job recently and it's been physically taxing. I thought he was simply being understanding of it. He works from home, so he has the house all to himself for his shift. Yesterday I came back home from work a bit early because I was feeling a bit under the weather. As soon as I stepped into the house, I heard a woman moaning from inside the bedroom and my heart sank thinking my boyfriend was cheating on me. I quietly opened the door trying to catch them in the act only to see his laptop open playing corn and my Stanley Cup positioned underneath him. My boyfriend looked up at me with utter shock and horror on his face. The sound the cup made when he pulled out is something I can't shake out of my mind. I think he might have stuffed the cup with a wet sponge or something to make it tighter. I stood there for 5 seconds trying to make sense of all of this but ended up grabbing my bag and walking out of the house. He was running after me still half naked trying to explain. What is there to explain? But I ended up driving to my parents' place. I couldn't even think of going back to the house or even staying there another minute while a grown-up man tries to explain what he was doing with a cup. I sent him a brief text asking him to move out and that we're over. At first he was apologetic but then he started blaming me saying it was all because I wasn't fulfilling his needs recently. I don't even know what to think of this anymore. Maybe it really was my fault. This is honestly the weirdest thing I've ever experienced and have no idea what to do. So I, F21, have a lot of hobbies. My top ones right now are running, training for a marathon, baking, reading, and doing something called junk journaling. About 6 months ago I saw that several of my books had folded pages, which I don't do. I asked my boyfriend if he had read them, which I would be totally fine with, but he insisted he hadn't touched them. Odd but whatever. Then after that, I literally could never find my running shoes. They would always turn up days later though, somewhere I definitely hadn't put them. Again, odd but whatever. And then, my journal got completely destroyed. Somehow, it was left outside in our garage and it rained. 30 hours of my artwork, ruined. This is so stupid but I genuinely started to believe the house was haunted lol. I did shed a few tears over my journal and my boyfriend rolled his eyes but helped me glue and salvage as much as possible. I had an intrusive thought that he put it out there but it was honestly so weird I was like why would he? Then, it was back to my books. I have a huge bookshelf with about 200 books because I read daily. I started to notice one by one, they were effing disappearing. Like straight up, gone. I searched every corner of the house and could not find them. I even texted my close people asking if they had borrowed any and didn't tell me. They all said they hadn't. When this happened I was like, what the F? And then it was my baking supplies. The final straw though was when I found my KitchenAid mixer broken, literally just would not turn on. Those things are expensive. I straight up asked him, did you do this? Like why is all my crap broken or lost recently? He finally admitted to purposely hiding or breaking my things, because my hobbies annoy him. I'm not going to lie, when he admitted to breaking and hiding my hobby things, I exploded. I told him he was a weirdo for touching my stuff and that it was honestly so strange to do this as an adult. He proceeded to defend himself saying that I was spending more time on my made-up hobbies than with him and this was the only way to make me focus on our relationship again. Which for context, isn't true at all. We still have a great relationship, I thought. We go on dates twice a week, we have sex regularly, we get along with each other's families and friends. Like I'm so confused. We've been together for 2 whole years. I love him so much and other than this odd behavior, he's so good to me. After that argument I was genuinely so distraught that I left the house and went to my sister's house. They all agreed it was the weirdest thing in the world. The icing on the effing cake when I got home this morning was that he threw out all of my crap. Cut the soles and laces out of running shoes, threw out my Apple Watch, destroyed the baking things, cut the silicone molds, the box that all my missing books were in the effing dumpster with all of my other journal supplies. The journal he helped me fix was torn to shreds. I genuinely started to sob. I know it sounds dumb and overdramatic but I genuinely worked so hard on my journal that it made me cry. Literally hundreds of dollars and some of my favorite books, in the trash. Money spent on baking supplies, which I used to bake for my baby cousin's elementary school ruined. I just don't understand what is wrong with him. He's never been like this before. Ever. I'm genuinely so effing confused what has gotten into him.